They didn't just forget to invite me. They erased me. Every year, my family held a reunion at our ancestral estate, a sprawling property that had been in our bloodline for generations. Stone walls. Wide fields. A lake that reflected sunsets like gold. This year, my cousin posted the invitation online. Elegant design. Gold lettering. Family legacy reunion. Everyone was tagged. Everyone, except me. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A glitch. Maybe they forgot. Then my sister texted me privately. "Hey, it might be awkward if you come. Some people are still upset." Upset? Because I had challenged how the estate was being managed? Because I questioned where the trust money was going? No. They weren't upset. They were uncomfortable. Uncomfortable that I had asked questions. Uncomfortable that I didn't blindly agree. So they solved it the easiest way possible. They removed me. And as I stared at the photos of them decorating the front lawn, the same lawn I used to run across as a child, something inside me shifted. They wanted me gone? Fine. But while they were planning their reunion in my family's home, I was about to make sure it wouldn't be theirs much longer. The estate wasn't just property. It was history. My grandfather built it with his own hands. My grandmother planted every oak tree lining the driveway. I spent summers there learning to fish, learning to ride horses, learning what family meant. Or at least, what I thought it meant. After my grandfather passed, the estate was placed into a shared family trust. My uncle became trustee. And that's when things started changing. Renovations that didn't make sense. Maintenance expenses that were unusually high. Loans taken against the property without full agreement. When I asked for transparency, I was told I was being difficult. When I asked for documentation, I was told I was being disrespectful. Eventually, I stopped getting updates altogether. Then came the reunion exclusion. That was the final message. You don't belong here. But what they didn't know. I had already been studying the trust documents. Late nights. Quiet research. Legal consultations. Because something about the numbers never sat right with me. And when you remove someone who asks questions, you better be sure they don't have answers. 2 weeks before the reunion, I received a notification. The estate had been quietly listed for refinancing. My uncle had overextended himself. Business investments that didn't work. Risky partnerships. And now the trust was drowning in debt. They needed liquidity. Fast. But pride is a powerful mask. Instead of admitting trouble, they planned a grand reunion. Champagne. Caterers. Live band. Image over reality. That was always their weakness. I made one phone call to the bank handling the loan. Then another to a private investor I had built a relationship with years earlier. Here's what my family didn't know. While they were hosting events and upgrading kitchens, I was building capital. Quietly. Carefully. I wasn't flashy. But I was liquid. And liquidity is power when others are desperate. The refinancing failed. The bank prepared to initiate a forced sale to cover the debt. Normally, that would have meant outside buyers. Developers. But I submitted a private offer before it went public. Clean. Immediate. No conditions. They wanted me out of the reunion. Now I was about to own the venue. The day of the reunion arrived. Guests filled the driveway. Luxury cars lined the road. Laughter echoed across the lake. I wasn't there. At least not the way they expected. While they were toasting to family unity, I was in a quiet office downtown signing the final papers. The trustee default clause had activated. The estate was legally transferred. To me. When the lawyer slid the deed across the table, my hands didn't shake. They felt steady. Calm. Because this wasn't impulse. It was strategy. Years of being underestimated. Years of being dismissed. Years of being excluded from decisions that carried my name. Now the narrative had shifted. By sunset, the ancestral estate no longer belonged to the trust. It belonged to me. I didn't crash the reunion. That would have been emotional. Reactive. Instead, I waited until dessert. I asked my lawyer to deliver a formal notice to the estate grounds. Professional. Respectful. Clear. The trustee default had triggered. Ownership transferred effective immediately. The gathering could continue for the evening. But future access required coordination with the new owner. My uncle called me within minutes. "What did you do?" "I protected the property," I said calmly. "You stole it." "No," I replied. "I purchased what you risked." Silence. Because he knew the numbers. He knew the debt. And he knew I had warned him. The music reportedly stopped shortly after the notice was read. Guests whispered. Confusion replaced celebration. For the first time, they were the ones caught off guard. The messages came fast. "You embarrassed us. You could have handled this privately. How could you do this to family?" That word again. Family. Where was that word when I was excluded? When I was ignored? When my questions were dismissed? They called me ruthless. They said I was power-hungry. But here's the truth. Ownership feels ruthless to people who lost control. I didn't shut them out. I set boundaries. Access required transparency. Financial decisions required consensus. No more hidden loans. Suddenly, I wasn't the difficult one. I was the responsible one. And responsibility looks threatening when others prefer comfort. A week later, my uncle came to see me. No audience. No performance. Just 2 chairs and decades of tension. "You could have warned us," he said quietly. "I did," I replied. He looked older than I remembered. Smaller. "I thought you were trying to control things." "I was trying to protect them." For the first time, he didn't argue. He admitted the investments had failed. The loans were larger than anyone realized. He thought he could fix it before anyone noticed. But secrecy grows faster than debt. I offered him something simple. "You can still host reunions. But under transparency. Under structure. Not as ruler. As partner." He nodded slowly. The power dynamic had shifted. Not through shouting. Through ownership. Months passed. The estate improved. Debt stabilized. Expenses became public. Decisions required signatures. For the first time in years, the numbers made sense. My sister visited one afternoon. She stood on the porch and said, "I didn't realize how close we were to losing it." "You weren't meant to," I answered. They had been shielded by comfort. Now they understood something else. Exclusion doesn't erase people. It motivates them. The next reunion was different. This time, I sent the invitations. Everyone was tagged. No one was erased. Owning the estate didn't feel like revenge. It felt like stability. I didn't buy it to dominate. I bought it to preserve it. But I won't lie, there was a moment. Standing at the lake during that next reunion, watching the same relatives who once whispered about me now asking for my advice. There was a quiet satisfaction. Not because they feared me, but because they finally respected me. Respect built on action lasts longer than approval built on noise. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider. I felt like the guardian. Here's what I learned. When people try to erase you, they believe you have no leverage. But leverage isn't loud. It's prepared. They excluded me from a reunion. I didn't argue. I didn't beg for an invitation. I studied the system. I built resources. I waited for the right moment. And when that moment came, I didn't take revenge. I took responsibility. Ownership changes the conversation. It changes who makes decisions. It changes who gets heard. It changes who writes the future. They wanted me out of their sight. Instead, I became impossible to overlook. And the most powerful part? I didn't destroy the legacy. I protected it. Because real authority doesn't shout. It signs.